in the next half an hour, I'll just go through some slides, we'll have a discussion, and especially with a small group like this, and the city redoing its 20-year plan, I'd like to see if some of the things we're proposing at MIST you all agree with and can get behind and say, okay, yeah, roundabouts, that seems a better way than stoplights. 3-lane roads instead of 4-lane roads, a connected bike lane system. There's also a cycle track system that Northern Europe uses, and it's appealing because it's separate, but there's some disadvantages to that system. So we'll just roll through this, and a lot of this I breezed through last night, so I'm going to show it again, we'll talk some more, and then go a little more in depth. What is sustainable transportation? Safe, equitable, environmentally sound. And MIST has been around for 7 years. It sort of was born out of free cycles, formed 11 years ago. And a lot of people getting bikes were getting hit or saying they didn't feel comfortable riding. So how do you have a system that works for a majority of the people, if not all the people? And here's our vehicle miles traveled right now. And it's typically the way planning is done is you project that line out with a ruler and say, we've got a plan for that. That's not a great way to plan a city or a family, anything. You don't want to just base it on the past. And if you're not careful, things can skyrocket. It's the feedback loop that you talked about, David. It's the same thing. A lot of things with global warming are mirrored in the way communities are building or not building for motor vehicles and other forms. This is what I think we're in the verge of, and maybe that'll drop quicker. We don't need so many miles traveled to do everything.
Is this in Missoula?
Missoula Valley.
Up to 1.5?
Per day, yes.
It just seems
I don't know the stat on HMT, horse miles traveled, back 100 years ago. It's probably pretty high in this valley. Things are always changing. We've got a lot of the solutions right here that embedded in our culture. Who knows where this bridge is from or where it is now?
That's kind of like that bridge.
Yes, we saw it in your presentation.
Yeah.
So it was moved upriver. What a nice reuse.
Yeah.
Oh, is this the California footbridge now?
This is the old Higgins and now it's the Van Buren.
Ah.
Awesome. The river used to come right up against the Loma. That's probably right there at Higgins. Is probably where they're standing right there.
We had an electric streetcar right down the road.
That's my street.
That's where you live now? Well, that rail's probably under there still. A lot of times they just paved over.
Stick it up.
Yes. We just got some shovels at Free Cycles a couple days ago.
Somebody pitch for a bulldozer.
Now, isn't this great how it just shows how people can get so stuck? Imagine there's parking and driving on the oval right now.
Yeah.
And someone was doing a presentation, said, let's remove it and make a green space. People go, not
Right.
possible. Someone might go to Denison and he'd say, well, what do you mean? You're crazy. Thank goodness someone did that. I don't know the story, but things are always changing. So no matter what you propose, it may sound hard, but you get going, you take that journey, and then eventually you look back and say, oh man, that was a no-brainer. Look at the wide sidewalk. Compare that to today's sidewalk on the Higgins Bridge.
Huh.
You can barely walk side by side. Blue. Okay, the third Higgins Bridge, what's different from the second Higgins Bridge?
No trolley?
More
Where did
lanes.
the trolley go?
Yeah.
We all know that story? General Motors bought up all the trolley tracks, and then they tore them out to push people into rubber wheel transportation. Granted, some of it was buses, but it was also just to promote rubber wheel transportation, buses, and mainly the private motor vehicle. They were fined $1 in the mid-1900s after they were taken to court, fined $1. But their effect has been amazing, losing some of our public transportation. streets are public places. We can't forget that. It's not for just cars. I can't stand it when I hear a parent, even though it's justified, get out of the street. Get out of our public places. Well, you're gonna get hit or killed. It's legitimate, but it's not a right way to have a city or community be. Bricks, asphalt, bricks last a whole long time. They don't cause a lot of greenhouse gases in their production. Asphalt is a byproduct of making gas. Very convenient, make a bunch of gas, take that leftover sludge and slop it all over everything, and you have a surface to ride on. Brick's a little noisier, but you could do some things that make it really work.
Do they last long, is what you're saying? Do they last longer than asphalt?
100 years.
Bricks are more aesthetic, I mean, they're.
Oh, yeah,
looks so much
way
better.
more aesthetic.
I lived in Charleston, those alleys are beautiful.
Yeah.
Live in Charleston, South Carolina?
I did, yeah.
I heard that's of course.
So here's the 4th Higgins Bridge, very narrow sidewalk, right here. A little afterthought. Somebody told me that they had to fight for the sidewalk when that bridge went in.
Can you imagine that?
That's the current bridge.
This is current.
Yeah.
Now, I'll get into this in a second, but this bridge could work very well if you had the bike lane here and the sidewalk out to here.
Yeah.
Wide sidewalk, wide bike lane, 1 lane for motor vehicles in each direction. And that's something we're pushing that not a lot of people are talking about, even though they were during the Broadway Road Diet. That was all about going from 2 lanes in each direction to 1 lane in each direction. That calms traffic down. We don't need multi-lanes so people can get around each other and get up in the queue at the next light or at the next intersection. I would submit 1 lane in each direction, there's plenty of room. And that makes the opportunity in Missoula amazing for what we could do with the leftover space. This is one reason we have to act. A lot of places are looking at the United States. We have about 350 million of the 1 billion cars in the world. And you know, right now, there's boardroom meetings about how are all the big automakers going to continue their sales, escalate their sales, and continue to motorize this planet. Almost 50% of the amount of energy a car uses in its life is in the creation of that vehicle. So even if you say, I don't drive much, you buy it, you've got this embodied energy that took a whole lot of fossil fuel to create.
I actually read something about the Prius and the amount of manufacturing that goes into the specialty components for that car and the amount of marketing and all the other little details. It costs more to get a Prius on the road than it does a Humvee. It's true.
Yeah, in economies of scale play a factor there.
Yeah.
But let me go back. How about a downtown walking plaza in Missoula? Notice the scale here. The buildings are tighter. We have a social human need to feel like the space works for us. So when you build really wide streets, it doesn't feel quite like a place for a human to be. The scale of this is just amazing. So even Higgins is a little wide, but I think it could work really well.
So where, like, let's say we started with 1 block in downtown. What block would you pick? I have one in mind. I'd like to see what you think.
I would pick either the northernmost block on Higgins, or on Higgins between Broadway and Main, right in the heart, or on Front or Main, just east of Higgins, the top half, that little area. And there's going to be the Roots Festival next in a week, and they're going to block off and have music in the streets. But all of us could always be looking at where is that first block. Where are you thinking?
I was thinking the easiest one would be right where Sean Kelly says, that block between Pine between Higgins and what's that next street over?
Ryman.
Right. Yeah. Because it seems like that kind of street already. It's just kind of it's real short and it's not a street you get any kind of speed up in a vehicle.
It was a bus depot too.
But that might make it a more of a natural, just be bus, bike, walk.
Yeah,
You know.
let the bus go slowly down the middle of it.
Yeah. Anyway.
But then in the middle of those, during those converted areas, you could put some smaller kiosks, shops,
More developed, more space.
or
We could do a lot between trains and bikes, period. You could bike, you're in your city, you could walk, hop on a train depot, get escorted to another place, and hop off with your bike. That's all these, a lot of these pictures I took in Europe with a little one-speed bike, traveling around, seeing the people, talking to people, riding the trains, riding the trails. Came across this young woman and asked for a picture, and she said, "What are you doing?" I told her I was studying transportation. She said, "Follow me to a car-free city." Oh my gosh.
There's something about that
Let's go.
picture that makes it look like an historical postcard.
Yeah.
And there's a little spot in Copenhagen that's car-free. It's not large. It's maybe a tenth the size of Missoula, but it's a very vibrant place. This just shows, instead of having to do hydraulic lifts on a bus, which a lot of places do for wheelchairs, you can have a low-floor bus and build your curb up. Even some of them have little flaps coming down. There's simple technology that we can use to solve the challenges. I rode a bus in Virginia once, where I'm from, and it had advertising all over the windows. I couldn't see out. That's not human transportation. But this is good. This is in Copenhagen. Clear view. We've got one of these long johns at Free Cycles. They're very easy to ride. You can transport a whole lot of stuff. You put a $20 deposit down for these bikes in Sandnes, Norway, and you keep the bike for a week and get your deposit back. We have something similar in Free Cycles. We have about 100 bikes, $20 deposit. You keep it up for up to a month. We're looking to expand that to some kind of citywide checkout system, complementing Missoula in Motion's business by bike. Parks and Rec has the Dasani bikes, yellow bikes on campus. It's kind of cool, the bike culture that's evolving. Now look at this, the old line right here, just moved over, painted red, instant bike lane, instant narrowing of the motor vehicle space, instant calming and slowing down. We can do more things like this, and the city of Missoula just did that on 5th Street between Higgins and Russell. They narrowed 2 lanes down, squeezed in a bike lane, but it's a little close to the parked cars.
Yeah, I saw that.
We got a real wide sidewalk here as well.
7 parking spots for every car in America. Makes for a lot of asphalt.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
7 parking spots for every car.
Is that
Because
really?
if you did the math, you have about 300 million roughly cars. That's 2.1 billion parking spaces. And zoning codifies that. It says if you're going to build a restaurant with 30 seats, you're going to have 1 car spot for every 2.5 seats, and case closed, because you're going to always have people driving. The progressive cities are now doing maximum parking standards instead of minimum.
Something like in Missoula, if you own a business, you have to have 3 parking spots for each employee or something. Something like that, or at least 2 for your employees.
A single family home, if you subdivide or you remodel or whatever, it's not the code, it's two paved parking places for each residence. And I'd really like to see that challenged.
They should just build up and drive underneath it.
You take Paradise and you put up a parking lot.
That's
Kids,
cool.
You got a
that's
stroller on
awesome.
the back of her bike, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the bike can do a lot. If
Awesome.
anyone has tinkering on their mind, come over to Free Cycles. I'll help you out. Mike will help you out. We got some tools and old bikes, and see what we can create. The mayor of Bogota a couple years ago closed all the main streets on Sundays for several hours, and the people took to the streets. This is still going on.
Yeah, I read about that.
Has that been tried in the US that you know of?
New York City has closed a couple streets around parks on a Sunday afternoon. This is the last piece of the Eisenhower interstate highway system that was finished recently, and they've had all sorts of problems. But the point is, now that our interstate highway system's complete, what are we gonna do next? Let's make it wildlife friendly, let's drop the speeds, let's focus on safety, let's focus on noise reduction. There's a proposal right now to maybe add another lane to I-93 Missoula, and that's probably gonna be defeated. But there's also a lot of talk about how to reduce the noise impacts. Roundabouts, they're not a traffic circle in our neighborhoods. They're not the East Coast rotaries. Over there, that's an example of a roundabout. I'll show a picture here. And here's why roundabouts can be pretty amazing compared to stoplights and stop signs. Reduce congestion, reduce all crashes, and here's the big one. No more serious fatalities and injuries. And if you remember, I defined sustainable transport as safe, equitable, environmentally sound. So that's what we're doing whenever a project comes up or a potential solution. Is it safe? Are people not going to kill each other? They're going to be healthy. Is it equitable? If you want to bike, you want to skate, you're in a wheelchair, does it work for you? Is it environmentally sound? How much pollution is it pumping out, or does it keep the air and water really clean? There's a before in Brühl, Germany, and there's the after. Again, I'll gain some space, gain some aesthetics, save money. That's kind of side to side. All right, this shows how a cyclist uses a modern roundabout, and we're getting two next summer. One at Higgins Beckwith, one at Lower and Upper Miller Creek Road. Cyclist comes along in a bike lane. This is if you have a bike lane on your arterial, which you really should have. You can either merge or use a slip right there. Either work fine. Personally, I would take the lane and just go right around. We did a demo project where we actually built a roundabout several years ago. We've built about 6 demo roundabouts. Mainly they're in parking lots or in fields, and we do discussion. This one we got to put on a road and watch it work. That last bullet refers to 2-lane roads and roundabouts usually move traffic better than 4-lane roads and stoplights. And you don't have to develop that land. You could just have a whole lot more green space and not black space.
I'm missing something. How do you pick up land from doing roundabouts?
Well, say Orange Street, if we had roundabouts instead of stoplights
Yeah.
down by the food farm,
Yep.
it would make a 2-lane road work there
Oh,
instead of a 4-lane road.
yeah, okay.
And then you could take that space, widen your sidewalk, make a bike lane, maybe put in maybe even do something creative. You put nonprofits down the middle of that road.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe you have a farmer's market in the middle.
yeah.
City gardens.
This is from Dan Burden right here. I'm going to zip through a bunch of roundabout slides so you can just see what's going on. There's Higgins Beckwith. That'll come in next summer. That's a truck apron, the back wheels of a large vehicle. That colored concrete with bricks can go right over that. The cars stay to the outside. The magic number is a 3-inch curb, so cars don't go up and over it. The trucks can have their rear wheels go over it. This is one reason the safety works at a roundabout. Check this out for a 4-way intersection. All those conflict points. You're taking a left, you're looking left, right, someone's coming on, you're judging gaps. Is there a pedestrian there? The roundabout simplifies that. You're doing one thing at a time, you're going slow, and you're looking at each other. You're not staring up at that light, waiting for it to tell you what to try to do. That's a before-after. Washington State now has 65 modern roundabouts, not a known pedestrian hit. Wow. Before, after.
Look at that.
This is a computer simulation. I think this has since been built down in California.
Wow.
This is a nice 3-stage. This is first stage. What can you do? Well, you can put in some hardscape, put in the roundabout, simplify things, slow it down. Then another stage might be redeveloping a little bit on the corners. It's all about making cities, communities, people friendly and not car friendly. It's not.
It's even more interesting to drive through a
Oh, yeah,
intersection
yeah.
in a neighborhood like that.
There's about 40 roundabouts next to schools in the U.S. We have about 1,000 total modern roundabouts. That excludes the really large rotaries that are high-speed in New England and excludes all the neighborhood traffic circles. And they work great. Principals have weighed in on this and said they work great. I've interviewed them, principals right next to roundabouts. They say it's great. The kids can get through. It's slow. People are courteous. And Higgins-Beckwith will be right next to Paxton. So instead of a 68-foot crossing at once, in this diagram you have two 14-foot crossings with an island in the middle. It's also appealing because citizens could build roundabouts. We could use local materials, we could hire local contractors. It's not a very complicated electronic computer system. So you do save about $5,000 a year in electricity costs.
That's per intersection.
Per intersection. If we did all 60,
Wow, that's a lot.
in Missoula we have about 64 intersections with stoplights. So 5,000 times 64, what's that?
320,000.
Per year. That's
That's
less,
not- that's a lot of
less carbon emissions from having to power those lights.
Yeah, the cars just stall at intersections, sort of.
Okay, and I love that roundabout. That's Raleigh, North Carolina, where I got my undergrad in business management, over there on the wall. That's an 88-foot diameter. The inscribed circle diameter is measured from this curve to this curve, and it's key. The Higgins-Beckwith is going to be 120 feet. And I'm worried we're going to lose some of this nice scale here because Higgins-Beckwith is on a state route, and we have 70-foot trucks that come through occasionally, and we must build it for that large truck. Earlier today, we had Marco Lopolo from Dining Services talking about reducing the impact of the food system on transportation, and that was something that came up. 120 feet will be about out to here, and that's as big as they should get. If we could reduce the numbers of big trucks or have depots on the outside of Missoula with offloading on a small electric vehicle, that has an implication of being able to redesign our streets as a more pedestrian and bicycle scale.
Don't forget the chairlifts.
The what?
The chairlifts, and the trams, and the gondolas.
Yeah, the gondola.
I think that'd be pretty.
Okay, let's talk about this. Can we go to 2 o'clock?
Sure.
Got till 2.
Yeah,
3-lane arterials. Let's look at Mr. Dan Burden's little show on road diets. Everyone familiar with the Broadway debate? Going from 4 lanes to 3 lanes? I haven't looked at this, so we'll see what he's got here. I'll bet this is a before and after, a 5-lane road. No. Dan Byrne runs Walkable Communities, and they have a walkable.org. They do walkable scale planning for communities, street level, community level, even regional level. Yeah, I know what he was showing on this. In the engineering books, this gets a level of service A for walking, the best you can have, because people are not congested. This gets a level of service F, because there's a lot too many people.
This is madness.
Oh,
There's a lot of that kind of thinking in this country.
And some of it was like, I guess, justified at one point, but, or was it not? Was it all about money?
Where was that picture from, by the way?
The full people picture?
Yeah.
Spain. So that is a before and after right there. These are some road diets that have been done where it was a 4-lane road converted to a 2-lane road.
Where's that snow cushion?
I don't know. Seattle's done about 12 of these 4-lane to 3-lane conversions. Now on this one, you can see the old yellow line in the middle. That used to be the dot.
Bob, are you able to maintain capacity because of the turning lane in the center?
Yeah.
It keeps, all that turning motion into one lane rather than, someone needs to stop up
Yes.
one of those left-hand turn lanes.
Yes.
That's just asphalt.
That's the old double yellow line, and they covered it up.
Oh,
You just covered it up with bark.
So just like we bury the railroads underneath our pavement, maybe we need to start burying some of the traffic lanes. To me, this is a nice example of a 3-lane road. It could be a standard for an arterial in Missoula. 1 lane each direction, your center turn lane, a bike lane, though I would move this white line to about right here. And very often you have little landscaping. I'm not sure if I even like the term pedestrian island or refuge. It makes it sound like you're trying to dodge and move, and you have this safety thing. But the fact is, you do have to dodge things in our community right now, large metal objects that are going fast and have operators at the wheel that are not paying attention a lot of the times. So a little refuge is fine for now. We have to ask ourselves what level of mobility or even motor vehicle usage is a sustainable amount. Here's a before and after. That's a 4-lane road changing to a 3-lane road with bike lanes. So let me zip back to Missoula specific. Now, if our bike lanes don't work, we could switch to this, which I wouldn't recommend right now. That's Denmark. Sidewalk, cycle track, that's the bikeway. A little bit of a barrier, and then the parked cars and driving. The crashes go up at intersections, even though they're 0 on the sections. Though you do have to worry about pedestrians crossing the cycle track. But imagine doing a road diet and all we did was take this line of cars, parking here, slid them over, put down some railroad ties, and you have an instant separated bike lane. Your left turn as a cyclist is restricted. So you gain some safety, but you can lose some freedom. If you're gonna do bike lanes, they need to be out from the parked car doors. This one is not. This one is not a good design. And maintain them. We got a good system in Missoula underway, and we all can work towards maintaining. Periodically, we'll have some citizens go sweep bike lanes or spruce up trails. This would be an easy thing to do. Has anyone experienced a bike boulevard before? Take a street in a neighborhood, you do potted plants or gardens or something that lets bicycles move through, but cars do not. I call it an urban vortex. It can help facilitate the movement of more desirable things. And all of our plans call for more walking and biking. All city plans do. Our Montana Constitution gives us all the right to a clean and healthful environment.
If you had a pedestrian plaza, would you allow bikes on it? Like in Burlington, where I live, you can't ride your bike.
You're supposed to walk your bike there?
I mean,
I don't know.
They definitely ticket you for it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with walking a bike.
No. Mindset's key. Just how we interact, talking to each other. So I agree with you, Mike, not getting angry, but if you almost get hit, it's a gut reaction to yell or scream.
Oh, sure.
And
It's fine to be constantly enraged about chores in your city.
you gotta keep the conversation going.
There's this guy who's making posters of the children in his neighborhood, cutout posters, but he's putting them up right near the streets so people will slow down.
That's good. We got kids everywhere. So what we'd like to see in Missoula is 3-lane arterials, roundabouts at major junctions, and we don't have to change all 64 of them over tomorrow. But maybe a third of them should be done in the next 3 years. We need to get a few in, and that's what's exciting about Higgins Beckwith, and then have more conversation. You could do a simple bike boulevard in each neighborhood and have them connect. Bring in rail, triple the buses, connect the trails. That's such a great piece to a sustainable transportation mix. Let's just keep moving on this stuff. Keep the dialogue going. We have a lot of room for improvement. This is the percentage of trips.
That's what I keep thinking too, in terms of there being a lot of room, so people are grateful enough for what it is, but we don't see enough of a reason to push for even better.
Here's an example. This is MDT's initial plan on the upper left for Arthur 5th 6, and that follows the 20-year projection lines and stoplights and queuing levels and turn lanes, and you end up with a lot of lanes right by the campus, the river, and Jeanette Rankin Park. We've taken our principles of roundabouts and 3-lane arterials, and worked into this project, very simplified, and you could have a greenway across half the bridge. So you saw some slides. There are places that take 4-lane bridges and make them 2-lane, and they work fine. They work better. We use that same principle. We take the 2 southbound lanes off the Madison Bridge and make them 1 lane in each direction, and we have all this space to do more people-oriented things with. This project is going to be coming back alive because the upper left alternative is dead.
It is.
It's completely dead. So many people spoke out against it.
Wow.
MDT is ready to say no project will take our money elsewhere. The city and the university are saying, wait, we've got to compromise. I'm not going to go into that now, but it's actually just 1 lane adding through here instead of 3. It still takes out some homes. It's still another lane through Jeanette Rankin Park. It's another stoplight at 5th and Arthur. It's 10 times better than what was proposed, but this is something people should really get involved with is the compromise worth doing.
Do you have an opinion on that?
Here's my concern, is even though it's only one new lane going up through Jeanette Rankin Park, it's a stoplight there, and I've...
People miles going like this, and you think there's an opportunity to make it go like this.
Yes.
So you actually think that's I know it's desirable, but you actually think there's ways that we can really make that happen?
Yeah, if we started, if we tripled our bus service, if we connected all those bike lanes, connected the trails, if we just started integrating these tools and did them as a puzzle, if you only do one and sit back and wait, it's almost doomed to fail. We seem to be at a point where we can start reinventing, and that might even be too far a return. It's not really reinventing, it's just kind of bringing this stuff up. And none of it is that expensive.
Not compared with cars and car infrastructure.
And the way that you would get the vehicle mile travel to go down that dramatically from what's projected is that it just becomes nicer to get around in other modes and people just do it more.
Yeah.
That's essentially what you're saying, because for some people, they still won't be able to bike in Missoula because they live in the Bitterroot and they're driving
Right.
through, they live up the Flathead, they're driving through, and there's all this kind of regional things coming in and out. But I don't know what percent of the traffic we see in Missoula each day is from those exterior areas that are bike distance. Do you guys have any idea, or?
It's a small percentage.
Oh.
Well, actually, from the outlying areas, I take that back. I've heard someone say as much as a quarter of our traffic, to even a third, is from those outlying areas. And there's a fairness issue there. If people go live in their domain, they come in, they're running over the hoses that trigger those numbers that give the engineers the impetus to say, widen it up.
In other words, just basically diminish the character of our city, right?
Would someone in the Bitterroot, Hamilton, ride their bike a mile to a train station, hop on, pay a $12 fare, get off at the Bitterroot Trail near McCormick Park and ride their bike to the university? Might depend on how much fuel costs and how much, as a region, we're aware of the issues, the air quality, global warming.
But, well, you know, and then go and back to the neighborhood electric vehicles. I mean, they may not want to bike everywhere. It's like they're already biking by the train, and then if we offered them, like, look at this nifty little hardy.
Or even a trolley.
Yeah, more of that. Or they could hobo stick on.
Any thoughts? Well, first of all, does anyone not like one of these? Is there any major piece missing?
Let me ask a simple question that goes back to the concern I raised at the beginning. What is preventing us from striping every arterial in Missoula in the next month? Like, what would prevent that from happening?
Okay, the hip strip. Everyone know the hip strip?
Yeah.
It's a 4-lane road, 2 lanes in each direction with parking on each side. The city restriped it 6 weeks ago. The new Bike Walk Alliance with MIST and some others started interviewing businesses. Almost everyone supported a 3-lane that would get bike lanes on them. We went to the city engineer and he said, you know, we actually support a 3-lane, but we can't design it in the next 6 weeks. So we're going to go ahead and stripe it as it is and keep the discussion going, and in a few years make that a 3-lane.
Yeah.
That's an
How does
example.
it take 6 weeks to draw up stuff like that? I mean, I could do that in a weekend.
You're not a city employee.
Right,
That's it, that's right, you have to get in and know the process.
There's a lot of liability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Federal standards.
Since they've restriped it, I've seen 4 or 5 people almost get hit, you know. So I don't think the way they're striping the lanes on the streets is as effective as they claim it is. And a lot of times they're too close to people parking, so a lot of times people can get doored or whatnot. So I mean, they have to rethink how they stripe the
Well,
streets too.
And also, I think, coming from the city standpoint, if, Bob's at all the transportation meetings, he's always there, and he's a great advocate for all this stuff. But there needs to be more
Yeah.
than Bob. There needs to be more citizens saying, yeah, we need to have those business owners that are on the hip strip coming to the city and saying, we want a 3-lane, we really want this to be this way. And that kind of citizen voice really kicks the city into gear. From working there 2 years, that, the projects that get pushed are the ones that the citizens really, really back. And it's more than just 1 or 2 people,
Yep.
And you're doing a lot of great work, I could tell. I mean, with what you've got in being in the city, so.
Who do you work for?
for the Parks Department. So I'm in this, I'm part of the city.
So again, on the striping issue, like when you go beyond South Avenue on Higgins heading south, doesn't the striping stop at South?
No,
That keeps going?
it goes all the way around.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I was just thinking that's.
It used to be
someplace.
fairly skinny, and this summer it got widened.
Okay.
Each bike lane got widened a foot. But I think you're asking, really, if enough people said we want it done, I think it could be done. And if I could pull up the internet, I would have pulled up our hotspots map where people are logging in their bike crashes. It's all over the city, and it's happening way too often. And each one of those is a story. It's a tragic story. But then when you have too many, it just becomes a statistic, and I think people are numb to some of this stuff right now. But
Progress in industry and other.
I also think we're on a tipping point where
Uh-huh.
someone the other day came to Free Cycles and they're making bikes for their fellow employees at one of the banks. So I think
Yeah, there's definitely something going on.
something's going on.
Yep, it's positive,
Yeah.
and it's growing all the time.
When you put someone on a bike and they ride around Missoula, they have such a better appreciation for Missoula.
Oh, yeah.
Or walking.
It makes Missoula that much better to live in when you get out.
Thanks.